If I experience trauma, I experience, let's say I walk across the street and a car hits me and I'm traumatized. So I walk across the street experiencing time and a center that I call me, Ilan. And then I'm catapulted into the space of trauma that is not time. And it deletes the center. And by me not dying in the car accident, but surviving physically, but having a trauma from that means that I have the information from then on in my nervous system that life happens while I'm dead. That there is no center needed for the universe to go on. So hell can only exist around this essence of trauma or this core of trauma. In the core of the trauma, everything is just clear and silent. And it's interesting that there is no time and there is no center and there is no ego. It's not only the description for trauma, but also for spiritual awakening. So every traumatized person is initiated into the essence of spiritual teaching. But and on many levels, and that's again, it's not about karma. Let's say both of us experience dying, the ego being deleted, no center, life goes on. There is no David needed. You are just life, just everything, just nothing. And I experience the same. And you are from then on in a state of bliss. And I'm from then on in a state of trauma contraction. So I'm suffering 180 degrees the other way around than what you experience from this experience. Why? I think out of so many reasons, if it makes sense to talk about reasons there, but I might be stuck in some kind of looping in the orbit around the essence, and you are falling into it. And to some extent, if we want to embody spirituality, or if we want to embody liberation or awakening, it comes down to why by accident have you been conditioned in another way than I?
Can I check if I got what you said? So you said,
let me just one more thing.
Sure.
Or just maybe in other words, but it's like trauma is identified in our trauma therapy, etc. culture as the source of suffering, and that is true. And if we look at it more closer, it's exactly the other way around. Trauma is the insight into the end of suffering, which is the silence in the center. So if trauma deletes my ego, how does that create hell? It doesn't. It ends hell. It creates insight into the illusion of hell. But I might get only close to the trauma essence, which is then looping around. And that is me caught up in last time, car. So I'm still back and forth between timelessness and time. And that creates hell, and that makes me invaded inevitably by the whole species around, looping there exactly the same way since a few thousand years, with a few billion human beings around. And us
Yes.
being deeply connected to everything, like being deeply everything, throws us into myriads of reasons for just experiencing hell. But we are not looking for suffering, but we are looking for suffering because we know we look into the opposite. We can't just see what we are seeing. So your question makes so much sense. Trauma is the end of suffering. It's the end of fear.
Yes. And what I just heard you said was something like we're kind of jumping back and forth between time and timelessness, and like hell and not hell. And if I were to just fully fall into hell, that would be the end of suffering.
Yeah. Because hell is a layer around.
Yes.
But the moment that I make sense of the hell, and this is why religions who teach hell as something that you can deserve, they need trauma and re-traumatization from generation to generation. This is not only knowing about the layer around the essence, which will be experienced as hell, but it is saying, we know that hell is waiting inside of you because of our mystical insights. And you will tap into that if you pray to our gods, because they are powerful and you know. And why they are powerful? Because they're inside of you, but that's what you don't know, and that's what we won't teach. So the moment you will find your hell, we will have equipped you already with stories why. And this is why you will never get through. But this is why you will keep looking for it. So that is a life in suffering, which is by definition the end of religion. Or let's say religion that wants to be something else than the opposite of spirituality or freedom.
Yes. So basically we solidify this layer of hell as if it kind of was the core.
Yeah.
As if there was nothing beyond. Like that's the ground.
Yeah. That's like you can't fall any deeper.
Yes.
That's a contradictory sentence in itself. If you fall, if we talk about falling, we talk about falling, which is per definition something limitless. I mean, there is no other falling but an absolute one. But like you have been fallen so deep into hell, never again. That's a missed chance. And we somehow buy that in this death experience that every trauma is, know that there is no reason to be afraid. We know that we are immortal. And it's not about saying, so everybody should become even tougher. That's not the point. But we do not have to decide between being subtle and being in flames. You had a question and I somehow then interrupted you and now it's maybe gone, but...
Yes, but I have another one. So if trauma is what initiates us into essence or has the chance to do that?
I would say it does that, but we don't know. So,
but you say we like orbit around.
Yeah. I think if trauma is what we hold on to after that as a suffering story, it doesn't initiate us into essence. If trauma is the moment of the moment, it is the initiation. So I think it's true. It makes sense to create two words in order to make clear about which. And that's interesting, like our language offers one word, and subconsciously we know we need two ones because we are talking about opposite poles. So
Mhm.
there is something of, yeah, sorry for interrupting you again. I won't have it. I will drink another beer.
Take a sip, Ilan. Okay. Ah. Okay, so I'm starting to get that what goes wrong or what prevents us from like trauma completing its job is that we create this narrative that trauma is something wrong and that we're weak and that we need to be like treated very cautiously. By that, we solidify this layer that otherwise we might just move through.
Yeah,